Excited to get this started to talk this morning about inventory. And the question really on the table is, will inventory improve for the spring housing market? And I'm going to give you all of the information you need on that. So as we get this deep dive started, it's always so good to see folks from across the country that start their week off the best way possible, talking about what's most important in real estate right now. And we're going to do that this morning. So go ahead and let us know where you are watching from. Always good to see everybody. I'm also going to do something else this morning on the front end, take a little bit of a detour from the deep dive. Many have reached out, and there's so much information out there on the NAR settlement, but I wanted to give you a little bit of perspective on what buyers are thinking right now and what is going on. There's certainly a lot of great resources that are out there on the NAR settlement. I was on a webinar last week with Tom Ferry and several others, Jack Miller from T360 and Alicia Essig, a great agent in Baltimore that really has done a phenomenal job in how to interact with a buyer on this. You can go to, I think it's Tom Ferry /webinar and see that. NAR also did a great Q&A session on this, and there's a document on the NAR website. I'm actually going to post all that on LinkedIn today. So you have some good resources for that. But I will cover just briefly a couple of things on that before we get started on this inventory topic. Again, if you're joining us this morning, let me know where you're watching from. Always so good to see so many great friends and KCM supporters and people that start their week with the deep dive on each morning. So with that as sort of a backdrop and folks joining right now, I'm going to go ahead and hop in and talk just a little bit about the NAR settlement. One of the best quotes that I've seen comes from Brian over at 1000 Watt. He said, "Our recent research at 1000 Watt tells us that consumer sentiment on this issue is malleable and volatile." I will come back to that in just a minute. "People have just been blitzed with NAR agrees to slash commissions headlines that may ignite mass consumer price sensitivity. But behavioral inertia is strong, and it's a long way from a headline to the very personal and serious decision to get help buying a home." I think Brian sums things up very, very well here. He says malleable and volatile, meaning malleable, it can be changed. Volatile, it's certainly fever pitch. Many consumers are very in tune to this, and maybe they heard something like you don't have to pay a commission anymore, or NAR slash commissions, or you don't have to use an agent to buy a home, whatever the case is, different things they heard which aren't true. What's our job right now? Our job is to be the educator. In a volatile world, people, in times of uncertainty, people follow the certain. And if I were to give you sort of a picture of this, I've used this before, but imagine you're here in a maze, right? Whatever kind of maze it is, whether it's a corn maze or you're sitting there trying to figure out a maze with pen and paper, and you get confused. Confusion leads to fear. I know that for sure. And there's a lot of fear out in the world among agents and people in our business today. Well, fear, if left unchecked, then turns into panic. And panic, if not resolved, turns into paralysis. It leads to paralysis, meaning I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And I want to remind you of a couple of things as we get started on this deep dive this morning, what consumers are actually saying right now, because I think there are a couple of things that are true. I mentioned this last week on the deep dive. Buyers and sellers, for that matter, are willing to pay for great advice. They're looking for great advice. And I think certainly being transparent, being able to explain what's happening with this settlement is what our job is. But I found this study that I want to share with you. It comes from Bright MLS. We pulled it, our research team got it from the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors site. Links to all this in the slides. If you're used to that as a KCM member, you can go get that information. They asked this question: which of the following statements do you agree with most? 76% of consumers said this: when you buy a home, you should definitely have someone who represents your interest during the whole process. 3 out of 4 consumers say, yes, I absolutely believe this. I need advice. I want help. I need somebody to lead me through the home buying process. So if we start to look at everything that's being said out in the world about this, that still remains true. So our job is to be transparent. Our job is to bring the truth. Our job is to really deliver to consumers what they're looking for, which is an understanding of this, and then help them through the process of buying and selling a home. Even furthermore, in this report, 91% said it would be very stressful to navigate the home buying process without a real estate agent or a broker. 87% said a real estate agent or broker is an essential trusted advisor for a home buyer. Great advice is always going to be in demand. This is, if anything, the settlement is a flight to quality, right? Consumers are going to demand great advice through this, and they should, right? They should, in our business, demand great advice to help navigate the home buying process. We always say, and the deep dive started out many, many times, most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening, but the great agents across this country can explain what's happening. And certainly you're here on the deep dive this morning with a desire to be able to explain what's happening. So go get the resources, be transparent in how you communicate, and ultimately explain what exactly is happening with this NAR settlement in our business right now. Hope that helps just give you some perspective, maybe even share that with somebody. If you're leading a team that is wondering, what do we do through this? How do we get great resources? Education is the game changer in this environment, and certainly that is true right now. But the question for this deep dive that I'm going to put on the table is, will inventory improve for the spring housing market? We're here the last Monday in March, heading into April and May. The spring housing market is upon us. Hopefully, wherever you're at, maybe it's getting a little bit warmer. Spring is right here or around the corner, no doubt about that. So let's kind of break that down. Let's look at where inventory is at. As always, you want to take a look at the national picture, bring context to where you're at locally. But I'll say this from Realtor.com. They posted this. It's very interesting. The inventory of homes actively for sale increased in 29 of the 50 of the largest metros compared to last year, right? We need more inventory. That is a good thing. Despite higher inventory growth compared to last year, most metros still had lower levels of inventory when compared to pre-pandemic years. So more than last year, but not as much as 2019 and the years before that in active inventory. I think everybody probably knows that that's listening to the deep dive this morning, but I want to remind you, 29 of the largest 50 metros saw an inventory increase over last year. And here's what that looks like right here. Year over year change in inventory, February of this year as compared to February of last year. And you see the majority of states in kind of that blue, darker blue to light blue, saw an inventory increase. Few states, maybe on the West Coast, Illinois, New York, saw a slight decrease in inventory. But overwhelmingly, depending on the market that you're at, I always remind people we're here in Richmond, Virginia. Virginia saw 8.1% increase in active inventory year over year. Realtor.com went on to say the spring housing market could shape up to provide home shoppers with a more plentiful supply of less expensive homes than last year. As the number of newly listed homes has grown significantly, the median listing price growth has slowed, and the share of home listing price reductions has increased to the highest February levels since 2019. Okay, so I want to maybe give you a visual to show you what they're talking about here. And it's a look at active monthly listing counts as measured, so far this year over the last couple of years. And this is what this looks like right here. When you look at active monthly listings, more right now than 2021, 2022, 2023, and you see right there that darker green line being as of February this past year. So that's a good thing. But if you put that into perspective, kind of going back to the quote, this is what this has looked like compared to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Not as much, more than the last several years, not as much as the previous years. But you start to see more active inventory in the market. And that's what we want to see across the country, right? We want to see more available listings for the people that want to buy homes across the country. If you go back even in time, this is active listings by month. going all the way back to the beginning of 2022. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You see highlighted in green each those three bars is February this year compared to February last year compared to February of 2022. Now, there's an interesting distinction right now. In each one of the years, 2022 and 2023, you saw kind of a slight decrease month over month from January to February. Slight decrease 2023. And then what do you see this year, 2024? Remaining relatively flat, not that decrease that we've seen. And so there are a couple of reasons for that, but I want to kind of go into that in just a minute here. But that's a good thing, right? If we start to see more inventory coming into the market, and there are many reasons for that, but one of the reasons, according to that study, providing a boost to overall inventory, sellers turned out in higher numbers this February as newly listed homes were 11.3% above last year's levels. This marked the fourth month of an increasing listing activity after a 17-month streak of decline. So a lot of reasons for that, but no doubt more sellers coming into the market for a lot of reasons. Maybe they put off doing something for a number of different reasons. Maybe they're like, hey, we haven't done it, so now is the time. And we're seeing, ever so slightly that inventory coming back in the market. So when we ask that question, will we see more inventory in the spring market? I think we can say yes. We will see more, and we are seeing more right now. Go back to active listing count each February since 2017, and you see it bottoming out in 2022, slightly up 2023, even ever so slightly up in 2024, which again is a good thing. There were 15% more homes for sale in February than a year earlier, according to Realtor.com data. That alone could jolt the housing market a bit if more for sale signs continue to appear. However, the nation is still suffering from a housing shortage, even with all of that new inventory. So we don't have as much as we need. We are seeing more inventory coming into the market, but dealing with this shortage of housing inventory. If we look at new listings coming to market, we see sort of a different picture, more than last year, but not as much as the previous years. Need more of that inventory coming into the market. And there are a lot of reasons for that. We've talked about on the deep dive, the fact that many sellers feel, rate locked into their homes. And we've even talked about this year being a year where some of that rate lock could kind of ease up, and people saying, we're going to go ahead and do something as we look to the future and realize, maybe a 2.75%, 3% 30-year fixed mortgage rate is not coming back anytime soon. But no doubt we need more new listings, but we're getting those. I think this graphic right here does a good job of explaining year over year what we're starting to see, ever so slight listing improvement across the country. I think one of the things that is probably paramount about this topic and one that we want to be vocal about out in the market is what's happening where you're at. Are you seeing that same type of increase in inventory that's being seen nationally? Are you seeing inventory increasing, maybe even ever so slightly where you're at? And I think there are a lot of reasons for inventory increases. One of the reasons has been what we just read: people, more people putting their homes on the market, but also this, sort of effect of higher interest rates and people saying we're not going to do something right now. You remember on the deep dive several weeks ago, we talked about overwhelming majority of people stop their home search because of rising interest rates. Hopefully, as we go throughout the year, we will see some improvement in that. Next week on the deep dive, we're going to talk about mortgage rates. The Fed met last week, and there's an overwhelming, sort of look at the middle of this year being one of the first times that the Fed starts to cut the Fed funds rate, which will ultimately be positive, I believe, for the outlook on mortgage rates as we go through the second half of the year. Okay. But no doubt we're seeing a few more newly listed homes this year as compared to last year. And this is what this looks like relative to each February going back all the way to 2017. So bodes well. That's good information. That's good things happening for people that are looking for homes, for people that wonder, okay, are we going to see more homes for sale? Doug Duncan from Fannie Mae said this: consumer attitudes towards home selling conditions increased markedly in February, with current homeowners in particular expressing greater optimism that it is a good time to sell, a development that may foreshadow an upcoming increase in existing home sales. So every month, Fannie Mae does a survey of consumers, and they ask two questions. They ask a lot, but the two key questions: is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? And this is what that has looked like going back to the beginning of last year. Really kind of starting to trend up from December. I think the only month that maybe was 1 percentage point higher in the last, between here and the beginning of last year, 66% in August. But more people saying, you know what, this is a good time to sell my home. It is a good time if maybe we didn't do something over the last year or a couple of years, whatever it is, to maybe get back into the market. I think one of the things in being vocal and being active and being out in the market is showing people this is what's happening right now. Anytime that you have fewer of an item on the market and more people that want it, that is going to be positive for selling. And that's certainly the case in housing, although we're seeing more inventory come back in the market. A couple of things about that. Allie Wolf from Zonda said homes that are turnkey in a good school district will be in high demand, meaning there will probably be bidding wars and they will sell above asking price. Allie there is saying if it's in good condition, it's in a great location, it's going to sell. It's going to sell quickly, likely above asking price. That's good information to get out there. Danielle Hale said, spring is always more active than the rest of the year. We're more likely to see bidding wars and above ask offers in spring than any other season. However, there will be less of that this year. I think what Danielle Hale is saying is this is still a very, very good market. Maybe not the frothy, frenzied market that we saw back during COVID, but no doubt a very, very good market. And like I mentioned, she went on to say there will be more of a roller coaster in mortgage rates than previously expected. Buyers are going to have to stay on their toes and be prepared to adjust. One of the things about this mortgage market is we are in a demand-based mortgage market, and I'll bring that to you next week during the deep dive to talk about exactly where mortgage rates are, where they're heading, and what that is going to look like so that you can confidently guide forward the sellers that you have and the sellers that ultimately are buyers and the buyers that are looking to say, okay, is this the year that we want to do something? So I'm going to wrap on that for the deep dive again on the 1st of April. It's not April Fool's, but it'll be the first deep dive we do in April. Mortgage rates, where are they headed? That's what we're going to cover next week. Give you everything you need to know to guide your clients forward confidently in this spring season. So hope you have a great week. Thank you for joining the deep dive, and we will see you back on next week.